So the most requested thing to be videoed was attaching the bottom. It seems complicated, but once you know what you're doing, it's not very complicated. So what you're first going to need to do is sew your two exterior panels together. You're going to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then you're going to trim that to a 1/4, and that's just to keep it from being so bulky. Then once you have it trimmed, you want to mark the center on both sides of your bottom. And then if you're going to use bag feet, you should mark your pieces before you put your bag feet in, just because it makes it a little bit more difficult. On each side, you're going to mark a 1/2 inch on the top and the bottom, and then you're also going to mark the center. You're going to start and stop at this 1/2 inch mark on both sides. Because that's where you're going to sew the side together. And then this is just to help you line up the center pieces. So you're going to keep your panels wrong side out, and you're going to put this right sides together, lining up the center. And once you line up the center, just clip it, and then you're going to keep clipping. You can use however many you like, whatever you feel comfortable with. And then you're going to sew this using the 1/2 inch seam allowance. Remember to start and stop at the lines that you've marked. All right, so that's done. And if you look on the inside, when you fold it, there's your bottom. So now you're going to do pretty much the same thing. You're just going to fold this out, align your center marks, and clip it. Now this is going to help the bottom become boxy without having to do an additional line at the bottom or whatever. Right, you can see your box is starting to take shape. And you're just gonna, when we sew this, we're gonna clip our corners here. That's to help it lay flatter, and then you'll sew the sides and you'll have a box-ish thing. Alright, so now you have a bottom. Kind of. Almost done. So now you're going to go around the edges and you're going to get close to your stitching. You don't want to go past the 1/2 inch seam allowance. This is just to let the fabric sit a little smoother. But if you go into the 1/2 inch seam allowance, you're going to greatly decrease the strength of the bottom. So now you're just going to flatten this out. Try and get your seam in the center. Let me face it towards me. All right, and see, there you go. Then you're just gonna sew. When you would mark your lines, if you had gone ahead and made this all the way, this 1/2 inch mark all the way across, you could just sew down that line. It's just preference if you want to do that. I had already had my bag feet in before I marked my line, so it made it difficult. So I just did the little nicks on the side. If you want, you can go ahead and do this one. It's best if you hold it at the edges and then kind of squish it down, like so. And then your bag is outside is almost done. Now, don't be afraid to manhandle your bag. It's kind of a necessity right now because you gotta get that corner nice and smooth. And you want to make sure you backstitch at the beginning and the end. I have a walking foot on my machine right now just to help my sewing machine handle all the layers and not get them all wacky. That's why it's better to go ahead and pin both sides, because then you can just flip it over and you don't have to stop and pin again. All right, so now that the bottom of the bag is done, we're ready to turn it right side out so we can see it, see what we did. You shouldn't need to clip your corners because of the way the bag was sewn. It's not necessary. Let's see how pretty she is. All right, you just want to poke them out on each of them. And there you go.